Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Python video. Hope you got your coffee ready. I do. I guess that's all that matters. I don't care about your coffee. If you don't like coffee and you're thinking about becoming a programmer, I suggest that you start to get to like coffee. That's all I can say. Just from previous experiences, it seems to be the drug of choice for programmers. Anyway, we're going to talk about how to create a function in Python, and it's actually quite simple. If you've delved into other programming languages, we're going to talk about what's similar, what's different, and if not, then don't worry. You don't need to know functions in other programming languages. Uh, you just need to know how to create one at the end of this, which is what I hope you'll end up doing. So, what is a function? So a function is a preset. Well, think of addition, right? Addition is a function. What is addition? It's the uh, sum of two numbers, right? That is the function. It is predefined. That's what everyone knows it as. And there's no other way to do it. You don't subtract one number from another. That is subtraction. That is an addition. So that's a stupid analogy, I know, but function is just predefined code, I guess, is what you can think of it as. And we'll go ahead and make one, and then you'll probably get the hang of it if you don't know what a function is. So let's create a function actually, and let's do a function that when we call it, it'll print out something. So first, you need to use the def keywords. We're defining a function, and after we write def, we create the function name. And it can be whatever it is that we want it to be. So I'm going to name it print something. And then we're going to have open and close parentheses and a colon. So these parentheses pretty much denote that a function is associated with whatever it is in front of it. For instance, you guys are probably well aware of the print function. You might not have known it was a function. You might not have known why we use parentheses, but that is the case. It is a function, and we're passing in something for it to print. Whatever kind of string that we want to pass. Well, I don't want to highlight everything. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a function. We named it print something, and it's going to do just that. We're going to go ahead and define it. So after the colon, make sure everything after is at least one tab in. That way, everything that's a tab over is part of this function. If we do something, like we type something here, and then we end it here and we type something else, only this part is part of the function. This part is not. Okay, so make sure it's tabbed over at least once. Okay, so what we're going to have this function do is we're going to have it print hi there. All right, so we define this function. We have the def keyword, we have the name, we have the open and closed parentheses with nothing in them. We'll talk about what you can put in them in a second here. But just for now, we're keeping them empty. And we defined our function. We have print hi there. And just for good measure, why don't we print something else to show that they can be multiple lines. Let's print hello. I don't know. I'm running out of ideas. So we create a function. Good. But it's not being called. Nothing's calling this, right? This is an actual something that's executed as of right now. We're just defining it. That's what the def keyword is for. Now we actually have to go into the code, which notice how we're not tabbed over anymore, and we need to call it. So just to show you where it's called, I'm going to print something saying calling it here. And then we're going to call the function. Print something just like that. So let's go ahead and run this. I have to right click it actually because I just created this file. And you can see it's wanting to run the last file I created and then deleted. So let's run this. And we can see the chain of events. The first thing that happened was this print calling it here, and then hi there, and then hello. So that is the first thing in the function, and that's the second thing in the function. And it called this before it printed these out because we called the function after we printed out calling it here. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to take a drink of my coffee. And anyway, let's go ahead and pass in some things. And when I say pass in, all I mean is pass in things into the function that we can then use in the function definition. Okay, so let's do the sum like I did before. Let's just call it adding, because I'm not sure if there is a sum function already denoted. I bet there is. I don't want to call it by accident. So let's call it adding, and then we're going to pass things into these parentheses. And if you're familiar with other functions and other programming languages such as C#, you know that not only do we have to define the type that it's returning, if it is returning something, but we also have to define the parameters, which are the things in the parentheses, like int, and then x, and then int, and y. So anything that we passed into it had to be an int. But in Python, you don't have to do any of that. You just make a name, and that's it. So let's call it x and y, and we separate them with commas. So this is going to print string of x plus y. So we passed in an x, we passed in a y, and then we're adding them. And we'll see how we go ahead and call that, just to show you what it means by passing in. So let's go ahead and call adding, and then pass in 2 and 3. So now 2 is taking in the spot of x, and 3 is taking in the spot of y. Just think of them as placeholders. And then whenever you see them later, that's where they're also going to go. So let's go ahead and run this. You can see that prints 5 now. So that is how you pass things in. You can pass literally anything that you want. Let's keep the same name, but let's just print it. And I can pass in, let's say, a string. So adding hi there. And then let's make a list. Let's do S. And then let's also do D. And then let's throw that into the function as well. Pass that in. Passing in x. So you can see that we passed in two different things. We passed in a list, and we also passed in a string, but we passed it into the same function. Python doesn't really care. It just does as you want it. Now notice if I did something like this, and I put 1, that's not going to work because we didn't convert it to a string first before printing, so I expect, oh, it did work. Okay, well, so be it. I thought it would throw an error, but it doesn't even care about that. That's how lenient it is. So that's a good example of how lenient Python is with their functions. But anyway, hopefully you got a good understanding of what Python functions are and how to go ahead and define them and call them. So I want you guys, if you feel brave enough, go ahead and create a subtraction Python function and pause the video and then come back to this and see if you got it right. So yeah, let's go ahead and create it right now. Let's call it subtract. And we're going to do x and y. And what it's going to do is it's going to return, actually. We're going to have a return. If you paused it and did it on your own, you might not have done this because you didn't know about return. But all return does is I'll just show you. It's probably better shown than done. So let's return y minus x. You could have done it the other way. I wasn't too specific if you paused it and did it on your own. But anyway, you're learning, so that's all that matters. So let's create this variable called val, and that's going to be equal to the subtract of, let's do 2 and 5. So now that we have return, notice how we're setting something equal to the function that we're calling. And the only reason we can do that is because we have this return. If we didn't have this return, it wouldn't do just that. It wouldn't return anything. Therefore, this would still be empty. But now that we have this return in our definition of the function, it's going to set value, or val, I guess, equal to what is returned by that function. And we'll see what that means. So let's go ahead and print that, print val, and it prints 3. Cool. So notice it returned y minus x, which is 5 minus 2, which is 3. So it returned 3, and set val equal to 3, and then we just printed it. So that is how you return as well, and hopefully, if you did pause it and get to this, you came up with the same definition just without return. Maybe you printed it. So good job. So yeah, that is functions, and hopefully you guys found this enjoyable. Hopefully you found it useful. And as I keep learning things in Python, I will be sure to share them with you guys, because that's what this is about. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.